Welcome to the podcast that will teach you how to successfully invest in and build steady streams of passive income from the highly lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. Veteran real estate investors Kevin Bupp and Charles Dehart from Mobile Home Park Academy will personally share with you the valuable lessons they've learned along their journey as mobile home park investors, so that you too can learn how to build massive cash flow and huge profits from this extremely lucrative niche. So without further ado, let's welcome your hosts for today's show, Kevin Bupp and Charles Dehart.
Welcome, guys and gals, to the Mobile Home Park Academy's weekly podcast, where we'll provide all the information that you need to know to successfully locate, negotiate, close on, and make huge profits from the lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. I'm your host, Kevin Bupp, and I'm usually accompanied by my co-host, Charles Dehart, but Charles will not be joining us today, so you got me rolling solo. So today, on today's show, we're going to be sharing the stage with Dan and Steve Warner. They're a father and son duo that got interested in the park business back in 2014. They bought their very first park in July 2016, and as of today, they own 3 parks that encompass 122 rentable spaces. But before we introduce Dan and Steve to the show, I'd like to run through a few quick housekeeping items that I want to talk about here today. The first one is that you guys have been hearing Charles and I mention the Mobile Home Park Academy. We've been working on it now for a year and a half. It's been a labor of love. Well, I am proud to say that it is live. It's live and it's open for business. We're accepting students into the academy now, and so if you have an interest in it, be sure to go over to mobilehomeparkacademy.com. Check it out. You can learn all about it. And just to give you kind of a little taste, a little pre-frame of what you can expect in the academy, again, it's the most comprehensive training you've ever seen out there in mobile home park investing. And just to kind of give you a little taste or a little sampling of what it's going to be all about, we've actually put together a free 2-hour training on how to use our very own techniques and strategies to find the best markets to invest in, build a comprehensive mobile home park database, and then also how to market to that database and create a steady stream of high quality leads. So that 2-hour training, you can get access to that through our website as well. Again, mobilehomeparkacademy.com. So be sure to go check that out. We're super excited about it, and I'm sure that if you have an interest in getting into the mobile home park space, you'll find a ton of value both in that free training as well as the academy if you decide to join us. And another laundry list item I want to go through here is, as you guys know, I think so, if you've been listening to the show, you know that I'm based in the Tampa Bay area, as is Charles. So if you're ever visiting Tampa Bay, whether for work or pleasure, whatever it might be sure to look us up. We love to get together with others that are coming into town that have an interest in this business. We love talking shop, and we have a passion for this business, and we love meeting others that share that same passion. You can reach out to us by emailing us, mobilehomeparkacademy@gmail.com. Just let us know what your travel plans are, and we'll see if we can coordinate our schedules to meet up. And lastly, as we have Steve and Dan on the show today, they're park operators. As you guys have noticed, we've had other park operators on as well over the past couple of months. If you are a park operator now, you own at least one park. I mean, you don't have to have a ton of them. Just one park is fine. We'd love to bring you on the show as a guest, so you can share your story, so that we can kind of feel your perspective of, what you think of the space, how you got into it, and that way others that are listening in can learn from your experiences. So if you have an interest in being a guest on the show, reach out to me, mobilehomeparkacademy@gmail.com, and we'll get together and we'll talk about bringing you on a future episode. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Dan and Steve Warner to the show. Guys, how are you doing today?
Awesome day, Kevin, up here in cold Michigan. Hey, Steve, how is it where you are at? Aren't you on the other side of the world?
It's beautiful out here in Hawaii. So every day is paradise here.
We couldn't be all spread further apart. I'm down in Florida recording this. Dan, you're up in cold Michigan, battling the snow, and then, gosh, Steve, you're out in sunny Hawaii, probably surfing waves. That's what you're going to do after we get off the phone here today, aren't you?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, good deal. Well, that's just proof that you don't have to be in one dedicated location to be in this business. I mean, you guys are spread out by, I don't know how many thousands of miles that is, but many, many, many thousands of miles. But yet, you guys own properties together, and you've been very successful in this business. So it's proof that you don't have to live in the same location as a business partner, and it's proof also that you don't have to necessarily own mobile home parks in the same state where you live. In fact, as you guys probably know already by listening to the show, that Charles and I, every property we own at this point in time is outside of the state of Florida. We do have a few in contract in Florida, but at this point we do not own any properties in Florida. Everything is out of state. But anyway, not to digress here. Guys, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I'm super excited to hear your story. I know that we met a few years back via my other podcast. You guys had reached out to me as you were trying to get into this business, and we met a few years back before you bought your first park, but now you've got 3 of them, and you guys have got some momentum built. So I'm real excited to kind of dig into your story, learn a little bit about your journey of buying your first park, also your second and third park. But before we dive deep into the meat and potatoes, if you guys could, maybe each one of you individually, just take a few minutes and give our listeners a little bit more of a background of yourself and how you got into this business or learned about this business.
Well, Kevin, as you know, we're a father-son duo team here, and me being the dad means that we've got about 30 years difference here of experience in the working world. And I've always been in the high-tech business, selling high-tech equipment and working on it and so forth, business class phone systems, large business phone systems. And I just kind of got tired of the idea that I'm selling a product that tomorrow is going to be outdated, that in another year it's going to be, something fit for the trash can because there's new technology coming out. And I found, that I really need to get more comfortable looking for something else that's going to, be more comfortable in my older years that isn't going to change like that and become trash tomorrow. And the only thing that I found that could do that was gold and real estate. So that's how and why I really jumped into real estate, was because gold just didn't appeal to me, and real estate did. There's something about real estate that holds its value, throughout time, increases in value with time, and it's something that you can, if you make improvements upon it, it will increase in value as well. And that's why we went into real estate. And then, furthermore, we started getting into mobile home parks. That idea fascinated me because, it's the buy in bulk and rent in bulk. We were thinking of apartments. We're doing single family homes. Now I'm thinking of apartments or something bigger. And apartments just look like more work, whereas in a mobile home park, if all your tenants own their homes, then you don't have more work. You're just renting the lot space. Just renting the dirt underneath the house, and you're just like running a community kind of, and bringing them the things that they need: water and gas and electric and paved road or whatever, and so. That's why and how I went into it.
Okay, and Dan, your background a little bit. You had done some spec built housing back in the day. I mean, you've dabbled in real estate over the years. And before you got into parks, I mean, were you guys actually buying single family homes? I mean, was that part of your business model when you decided that you wanted to start investing in real estate? Or did you guys just decide like, hey, let's look at single family. That's not good enough. Let's look at something bigger and better, and we're going to buy a mobile home park? Or how'd that progression
Something
look?
along those lines. I was buying single family homes. Yeah, I did build homes. I was, I got my builder's license still today, and I was building new homes, spec homes, and selling them. I do one every couple years, and that was slow, methodical. Didn't really make money. So. After the crash, about 2009 or 10, is when I saw all these homes on sale. So I started buying those, and I still have a few myself. And in the meantime, Steve was off at war in Afghanistan, fighting for our country and so forth. And then he come back now, and he's got a few bucks saved up, and he says, "Dad, let's do something together." And I said, "Well, I'm doing, single family homes. I got a duplex and these other homes, and they're really nice. I buy them, fix them up, get a tenant in there, and now I got some income rolling, and then we can mortgage it and buy another one or whatever, something like that." Well, that's just one at a time, says Steve. And Steve thought it would be better if we, went in bulk, like let's consider apartments. So we started looking at apartments. And then after a few of your podcasts and a few other people listening to other podcasts, mobile home parks just made all the sense in the world. It's like you said, it's something that's becoming more and more rare, whereas they're building new apartments all around me all the time, and I'm not seeing any more mobile home parks go up. So that's becoming even more valuable than gold. So that's where that went.
Okay, fantastic. And Steve, how about yourself? Give us a little bit of your background, if you would.
Well, let's see. We'd be remiss if I didn't mention I'm a father of 3, 4.5, 3, and 1 year old. So that takes up a lot of my time. I'm also a Marine Corps aviator, so I've been living out in Hawaii for almost a year now. Been in for 9 total years this year. So that's where I'm coming from. And as far as getting into real estate, like my dad said, I think our knowledge has progressed significantly. When we first started looking at it, like you said, we were looking at residential and buying possibly like a quad. And I think we were going to buy that quad in the local area, and we were going to plan on buying it outright in all cash, not using any leverage. And then 2 years later now, I think that's when we closed on our first park, buying it with a note, and then shortly thereafter closing on 2 more parks. So like he said, we first started looking at single family homes, and then quads, and then progressed into multifamily. Just knowing that buying in bulk was really the right answer, and a lot of it we couldn't have done without you, Kevin. Listening to your podcast gave us a lot of the comfort, knowing that just a lot of the knowledge that we've gained from your podcast, using Frank and Dave's Mobile Home Park Academy. A lot of those things have given us the comfort to close on that first deal. That first deal was the hardest to close on. From there, it was pretty easy to close on the second, third parks.
Yeah, it's all about that first deal. I mean, it really is. And you guys, obviously, it took some time for you guys to get the education. You looked at a lot of deals, and it takes time to build that momentum and to get that first one done. But I always say, like, that's the first one really is the tipping point for most people, because if you by the time you get to that first one, for most, you put a lot of work in, you put a lot of time and energy, you've gone through frustrations, you hit roadblocks, you thought about giving up, like you have all these emotions. It's like a roller coaster of emotions. Like, is this the right thing for us? Should we be looking at other types of deals? I hear all these other people talking about making money in apartments and self-storage. Maybe we should look at that. Like, there's all these crazy thoughts going through your head before you get that first deal done. But then once you get it done, you're like, okay, we got the first one. And then sure enough, like, other ones start rolling in, because now you've built this momentum. It's like the snowball effect. And so it looks like that's really working in your favor now, because you guys closed that one, but then shortly thereafter got 2 more, right? I mean, literally back to back. And I'm sure that you probably have more deals coming your way that you're considering, or at least looking at. But now you guys kind of reached that tipping point. Now you're on the other side of the hill, going downwards and just gaining speed. So that's super exciting, because I remember our first conversations that we've had, a couple years back, and you guys were just, I know we looked at some deals together, and you're getting my feedback on a few deals you guys were looking at, and then next thing I hear is you guys got 3 parks. So it's that's pretty cool and very, very exciting.
Yeah. Yep, that first park that we bought is more of a turnaround park, and it was heading down the wrong road, and we've got it turned around now. It's looking really nice, and we've got the bad tenants out, and pretty much got them out. And there's just a few more to go, and it's turning around. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be not only worth a lot more money, but it's going to be an awesome community for all of its residents. The people that live there just love the ideas that we're putting into the park, turning it around. Mm-hmm. The second 2 parks, Kevin, we would have never got that, run across that deal unless we owned a park to begin with. Mm-hmm. And that's the funny thing that you were just kind of hitting on, is that, once you get that first park, it's like getting a giant snowball rolling, and now it's rolling, and it keeps rolling, getting momentum and growing, as it rolls. Well, the second 2 parks, they were in receivership at the time, and they were actually supposedly sold to somebody else at the time too, who kept backing out, getting cold feet, hemming and hawing and so forth. And when we ran across it, Steve and I just said, hey, that's a great deal. And we're agile and able to just jump on something and make decisions quickly, within moments. Yeah, let's buy those 2 parks, because there's a great deal on those. Yeah, they have some work to do, but there's so many things right about them, and they're in the same city as the first park that we own now. So it's not as much work or for us to go there to do something, to meet with somebody, and we've already got an infrastructure of people in that area now to work with. Well, it'll just grow from there. Mm-hmm. And so the second two parks, like I said, were in receivership because the owner had gotten old and his wife had passed on, and he just lost totally lost interest in taking care of those parks. So he stopped paying all the bills except for the mortgage. He would make the mortgage note, so it was never really in foreclosure, but it was in receivership because he wasn't taking care of the parks. Okay, so the bank took it back and named somebody else to run the park, somebody who owns a very large park in that area, and he was running it to just by the same way that you would run it. I don't think he ever went there. He just paid the bills and talked to the managers that were on site and saw that things got taken care of. For about 2 years, it sat like that while it was kind of for sale, looking for somebody who can really take care of it. One of those two parks is on well and septic, and the other one is in the city, and it has city water and city sewer. And the well and septic park is actually much nicer than the city park, but it has its issues that come along with that. Mm-hmm. The wells, the DEQ, the Department of Environmental Quality, has said that they need to be replaced. So we're working with the DEQ. We had to enter what's called a consent order with the DEQ in order to be able to purchase the park. And that took hours and hours of meetings with the DEQ to understand what they require and what they want to see, and the process that we're going to go through over this year, to put new wells in place and bring those up to specifications so that the community has water in accordance to the fine state of Michigan.
I want to talk to you about that a little bit, Dan, because I think that's one of the unique nuances that exist in the mobile home park space. Is when you get into this business, there's different types of infrastructure setups and arrangements, and you got public utilities, which is the preferred for a lot of people, just because it's simple, it's easy to understand. I mean, the water's coming from a city source or a town source. It's regulated before it gets to your park. It's clean. It's drinkable. You're not liable for poisoning your residents should something go wrong with it, right? And so that's really the concern I think a lot of people have with. It's more so with wells, I think, or more so wells than it is like private sewage systems. Like for instance, like septics don't concern me whatsoever. Package plants, a little bit different story. Lagoons, kind of the same thing as a package plant for me. I just don't really like them too much. But septics are easy. They're very basic in nature. They're simple. They don't worry me at all. But wells, the only thing I can ever think of is something goes wrong, something infiltrates that well. Now you run the risk of potentially poisoning residents, which and I'm not trying to put fear in people listening to the show, but like it's a real thing. Like it's a possibility. And so I want to talk a little bit about that well in terms of the DEQ and what issues they found with that well, and what risks were associated with that. I mean, I'm assuming I'd like to hear about like the due diligence you guys did. Like, what did you find this out after you bought it or before? And then was there a risk of you guys ever like literally having the park shut down because maybe the DEQ wasn't willing to work with you to make these changes? So can you talk a little bit more about that and the process regarding those wells and the challenges that you're having with them?
Hey, Steve, you want to take that from the beginning?
Yeah, so we knew right from the beginning that the water was an issue. It's only the firm capacity, so it would just require a lot of due diligence on our part to make us feel as comfortable as possible purchasing it. I mean, the numbers, we bought the park basically at 50%. It was producing $100,000 a year, and we got it for $500,000, the two parks together. So right away we knew, like, okay, if we can tackle these wells, this is really the only issue. This makes perfect sense, and the amount of money that we're making, we should be able to, with the timeline the DEQ has given us, we should be able to meet that and be able to pay for the wells just on the park.
Okay.
On the park's profits.
So the ground wasn't contaminated. Like it was just a supply issue, right? So it wasn't like a contamination issue or anything like that.
That's right, Kevin.
Okay.
He said it was a firm capacity. Firm capacity is kind of defined as, well, how much water can it produce in a certain amount of time? Mm-hmm. And it was not producing enough water for the park residents. None of the park residents were complaining about low water pressure or anything like that, but they were all getting plenty of water as far as they're concerned. But according to the standards that's set by the state of Michigan, no, it has to produce 1 gallon per minute per licensed resident, and if that park happens to be licensed for 57 or something like that, so we got to have about 57 gallons per minute of water production available by the well.
51 sites, right?
Yeah, 51, and then they add 3. It's kind of, they got some kind of equation that makes funny math. So
okay.
Yeah, we're somewhere we got to produce somewhere around, and it's only producing 20-something gallons per minute right now. The 2 wells that are there, they're down about 20, 24, 28 gallons per minute, I think.
Okay.
I don't have,
So you guys closed on it. Now you're working through the issue right now. You're working through putting new wells in place. Give us an idea. What does that look like as far as costs are concerned to put a new well into place? And then is there a certain process you have to go through to essentially seal or close down the existing wells?
Well, it's really easy, Kevin. You can hire somebody to consult with and run the whole process for you, or you can just get to know it yourself and understand it yourself and run the contractors yourself, which is my preferred method. I like to run it myself because I understand wells. I've built a lot of single-family homes and all of them had wells. I never built one in the city so far. And I live on well water right now, my current home, and all my rental homes also have wells and septic fields too. So I'm really comfortable with those subjects and with those kinds of things. So, and I've got a well driller that I really know and love and care for, who goes all throughout the whole state of Michigan. He'll even cross the border for me. And he's really good at his craft, at doing wells and things like that. So.
Hey guys, Kevin Bupp here from the Mobile Home Park Academy. I'm very sorry for interrupting your show, but I have something really special I'd like to share with you. If you haven't heard already, Charles and I are offering something really cool here at the Mobile Home Park Investing Podcast, and I just wanted to make sure that you knew about it. We're offering a free 30-minute phone consultation with the 2 of us, where you can ask us anything that you'd like about mobile home park investing. Maybe you're brand new and you just have a few questions that you'd like answered. Or maybe you want to run a deal past us and have us help you walk through the evaluation process. Or maybe you're an already experienced park owner and you just want to bounce a few ideas off of us. Whatever it is, Charles and I, we're very excited to speak with you. And there's absolutely no ulterior motive with these calls, so you don't need to worry about us trying to upsell you or pitch you on some kind of product or service. These calls are simply our way of giving back and connecting with others who share our same passion for this business. And just to reiterate, it doesn't matter if you're brand new or a seasoned investor. These calls are open to everyone. But there is one catch. It has to relate to mobile home parks. And so if you'd like to schedule that free 30-minute call with Charles and I, please send an email to freecall@mobilehomeparkacademy.com. Again, freecall@mobilehomeparkacademy.com, and almost immediately you'll receive an email back with a link to our calendar. And if you haven't received that email within 5 minutes or so, be sure to check your junk folder, okay? Sometimes it ends up there. And when you go to schedule that time on our calendar, please include a little background on yourself as well as what you'd like to discuss on our call. But please be sure that it relates to mobile home parks. Charles and I really look forward to connecting with you, and we look forward to helping you in your journey to success as a mobile home park investor. Now let's get back to the show.
And I trust him. And so between me and him, we're going to put those wells in for right around $50,000-$60,000 at most. And
you'll need 2 of them?
We're going to need 2 or 3 possibly, depending on what the production on them could be.
Okay.
Now, they've got to be bigger wells. Your typical well that you would use in a single-family house might cost you $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000, depending on the depth that they go through. If you buy it from the right well driller, somebody who charges a reasonable rate, that's what I've always paid. Last well I put on a single family home was $4,500, and it was about 50 foot deep, and it's a 5-inch casing, and it produces massive amounts of water. But you see, when you're getting into you're changing from 10 or 15 gallons per minute, and you want to be able to produce 20 or 30 gallons per minute on each well. Or more. Now you got to have a bigger pump, and you also have to have a slightly bigger casing. So you go from a 5-inch well to a 6-inch well, right? And the cost increment isn't that big, going from 5 to 6. But when you go for the casing, that is, and the drilling, but the pump is where thousands of dollars come in, because the pump is really expensive as it gets bigger. The cost goes up logarithmically almost. It's scary. So you're looking at, rather than a few $100, $500 or $700 for the pump, now you're looking at $5,000 or $7,000 for the pump, and that's the part that really gets to you. The old wells, it's really easy. The well driller just kind of digs them down into the ground, maybe 5 or 10 foot, cuts off the top of it, and pours a whole bunch of sealant inside the well, like a cement kind of a mixture, and just fills the well up. And these are metal casing wells that are in there right now. Okay. So we'll be replacing them with PVC wells.
Okay.
PVC cased wells.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. So yeah, well, good deal. That's good to know. I mean, I just that's one of those things where we actually don't own any parks on wells right now. We actually have one in contract that's on a well, but the city tap is right there at the front of the park. And so, like, for us, we always like to have a backup plan in place. Should something occur to the private utility setup, even with septics, we like to know that we've got either the ability to replace them, based on there's enough actually land left over to put a new tank and a new septic field in if we have to, or we can tap into a public sewer source. So, but anyway, but where you're at in Michigan, it's pretty common. I mean, it's very common to find parks on private utilities. I mean, it's probably more common than not to find them on private utilities up in your neck of the woods. Well, fantastic. Well, I'd like to change the subject here a little bit, guys, if you wouldn't mind, because I like to learn the foundation of your of your mobile home park investing experience, and that means like that very first deal that you guys did, because I think, again, the first deal is everything. It's the momentum, it's the tipping point, but it's also, that's where you learn all the fundamentals. Like, prior to that, it's all theory. But the first one's where it all really comes into play, right? You're putting everything in theory into action. Everything that you've learned along the way, you're putting into action, and you learn everything. You learn everything on that very first deal. So I like to talk about that one in terms of, how you guys found it, the size of the park, what you paid for it, the opportunity that you saw in the park, like what excited you about it, and then, what the turnaround process looked like. So maybe everything from A to Z. Let's talk about that first park a little bit.
Well, it all started with a broker. I created a relationship with a brokerage here in Michigan who doesn't have, well, he's got a reputation, let's put it that way, and he's got a lot of homes on their market, and this one popped up, and it looked like a great deal, and it is too. I think we got it. It should have been about a $750,000 deal, somewhere around there, but he was selling it for $500,000. So we put in our offer at asking price, $500,000, and they signed it. It was very slow moving. The process was, because the owner was really the son of the owner. And so the owner is in his mid to late 80s, and the son is somewhere around 60 or so. And he had about zero interest in running the park. He has a successful business in the insurance end of things, and just didn't see anything worth spending time on a mobile home park. So he had his site manager just doing everything and anything that needed to be done, and would not get involved in it, and was very slow at paying bills. And so the park was, nobody was caring for it, in other words, and there was deferred maintenance here and there. It wasn't in drastic shape, but it was heading down the road to disaster. Mm-hmm. And if it hadn't gotten turned around, it would soon become not a nice place to live, put it that way. And so we picked it up for, like I said, 1/3 off price. We felt good about the deal. It got us into mobile home parks, and there we go. So
how big was that park? How
about,
many spaces was that park, Dan?
We're at 48 spaces. Is that right, Steve? 48 spaces, but really, they're not all that usable because it's such an old park. They're shorter spaces. They're smaller spaces.
Okay.
And we've got 37 homes in it, and they were all but one were occupied according to the numbers when we bought the park. And then now we have 4 unoccupied, and actually there was one that was unoccupied when we bought the park, and it still is unoccupied. We're having a slow time at turning those mobile homes around, and they do need a lot of focus, but they also take a lot of time, and like you found, they take the right person to or the right company or the right people to turn those old homes around and into something that's saleable. So we're down to, what did I say, 33 occupied right now out of the 37, 4 of them. We're in the process of turning one of them around. It takes a new furnace. It takes redoing the whole roof, new ceiling throughout the whole mobile home, a few new windows, and I think it's going to be there. Some flooring, absolutely whole new bathroom. it's a lot.
So you guys are doing the renovations. You're not just trying to sell them as handyman specials. Like you guys are planning on renovating each one and selling them off to an end user. Is that the plan?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that, Steve?
The issue with the handyman specials has been that sometimes you end up getting someone in there that just kind of squats and doesn't do anything to it. And
they live in it with holes in the floor.
You shut the water, or they don't even pay the water bill. They're like, all right, just shut the water off, and then they somehow manage to not to live there without water or whatever. And finally something comes along to where they can't make the rent that month. And then, they're out of there. So, we're working on obviously getting lower bids to get some of these homes fixed up, and get them actually turned around and then sell them to someone for like $5,000 versus just giving it away.
Yeah.
Which is we're getting a better quality tenant in there already. But,
there's 2 things that we've done that have been very helpful with handyman specials, and I agree with you on that. Like it's actually a lot more challenging than people might think to unload handyman specials, because it takes a unique person. It takes someone that's responsible, someone that has the skill set and has the money to actually renovate it, right? And then after that they're going to actually pay their rent on time. And so what we've done is, number one, we won't just give them away for free. Like we'll sell them for very little. I mean, whatever they're really worth. I mean, we'll give like a very good value on them. We'll know how much they really need. And, but we still do the full blown background checks. We qualify the person, check their income, check their references, but then also just typically entice them with a few months, like however long we think it might take one person to renovate that, like in their part time, you'll give them a couple months of free lot rent. And, but then also have some standards set in place, like in writing, we mutually agree on what they're going to do to that home before they move in, before they can occupy, before we even transfer. We'll sign a bill of sale, but we'll put a contingency in that bill of sale about the title transfer. We'll put in there about what needs to happen, meaning like what they've promised they're going to renovate before this title transfer occurs. And so we'll go in and actually do a final inspection on it before we, transfer title over and finalize the agreement. So that's actually worked pretty well for us. It's hard to find those people that are willing to do it, but we've been pretty successful at doing that. But then the other thing that we do is we won't necessarily, if we've got multiple homes in a park, like obviously we'll kind of pick the easiest ones as first priority, or the ones that maybe are bigger, have a better layout, and we'll renovate those first because they're faster and we know we can sell them faster. And we'll kind of leave like the duds or like the older homes that need a lot of work. We'll leave those for last. But with those older homes, we'll go in and we'll do like a partial rehab. So we'll go rip all the floor coverings out. If there's any like drywall areas that need completely replaced because of a leak, we'll cut those areas out. We'll fix the leak, but we won't put new drywall back in. So like we'll leave a clean blank slate for a new person coming. Like we'll fix the floor. We'll fix the floors, make sure there's no weak spots. If there was like cat urine or dog urine in there, smell, like we'll like kills the floor. And so like we'll just make it like a blank canvas for them. So it still needs a full renovation, but it doesn't need demoed. Like they don't have to go in and actually do the demo work. We've already done that for them. And that's really helped us sell handyman specials as well. Sell them either for cash or get someone in there that feels pretty comfortable with their ability to go in and do the fix up. Because now a lot of people, even though they have got this experience, they don't have the vision. And so when they go into a place that's a complete wreck and it still has the old carpet in it and it smells like cat urine, it just smells disgusting, they can't look past that. They get hit a roadblock in their mind. They can't see past that filth and that disgust. But if you actually make the blank canvas for them, it's pretty easy for them to identify, well, this place will look good with green walls and new flooring, this, that, and the other, because it's literally a blank slate that you've created. So that's worked pretty well for us as well. So we've done both. But I didn't mean to interject there, Steve. I just want to kind of put my 2 cents in on what's worked for us.
Oh yeah, we appreciate it. That gives us more ideas now to go from, so that's good. Expanding on some of the numbers from that first park, lot rents were $305. Like you said, all owner occupied lots. So everyone owned their home in the park, and the area, the market supports the average lot rent is $345. So we were able to bump the rents right away to we're still the lowest in the market at $325 right now, and we'll probably be bumping them up again soon.
Did you lose anybody when you guys bumped them? Did you lose any of the residents? When
no,
you bumped the rents?
not at all. Yeah, not at all. It was an easy raise, so it worked out well for us. But we've also put a lot of money into just turning that park around. We sealed and stripped the roads, which was a pretty big expense. We trimmed the trees up. We put up new signage. And then just turning around a lot of the homes too. There's been some significant sewage leaks that we've had to fix, and then the cracks have been an issue too. I'll let you expand on the cracks, Dad, if you want.
And just real quick, this park's on city utilities. This is the one that's on city utilities, correct? The water and sewer.
Yeah, we have water and sewer from the township,
okay.
At this park. Yeah.
Is it billed directly or is it sub-metered?
No, we're not that lucky. That would be wonderful because we still, we tightened it down to where we thought we were collecting all of the water money, and then the last few months, Steve, I have bad news for you, Steve. It's we've probably got some leaks somewhere that have sprung up somewhere because the water usage is far outweighing the water that's getting paid for. So just before we bought the park, just a few months before, the previous owner had meters installed on all of the residents and started billing the water back. And he started billing the water back at the township's rate, so it was an even pass-through. Mm-hmm. And then he found that, gosh, I'm not collecting enough money to cover the water bill, so I'm going to double the rate. Well, he's not collecting enough money for the water bill because he has a bunch of leaks around the park.
That's funny.
So he did double the rate, and he got away with that too. But there was lots of squawks about it, and they continued on and on. So when we bought the park, that was one of the first things that we stated to all the residents: hey, we are not going to make money on the water. We are going to bill your water to you at the exact same rate that the city is charging us for the water, or the township's charging. And so we did, in essence, lower their water bill by not quite half, but somewhere around half, because there's some fees, administrative type fees, that are on their water bill. So we brought their water bills generally from like $45 average down to about $25 or $30 average. And so at that rate, it's livable. But then at the same time, we said, yeah, but we're going to increase the rent too. So
right.
It was kind of a wash.
Yeah. Hey, that's fair. That's fair, right?
That's real fair. Yeah.
They're already trained in paying a certain amount, so that was a nice little give and take, I think. Okay.
It is, and a lot of times, Kevin, when they know the rent is going to get raised, but they breathe a giant sigh of relief when they hear it's only going to be $25. Because they, in their minds, a lot of them have pictured $100 or $150 raises because they look around them at other parks that are much, much, much nicer, and they look at their rent prices of being $100 or $150 more than ours, than what they're paying, and they just dread the thought of somebody making them come up with that much cash, But over time, as the park improves, they will be paying more and will be upping the rent, because it's the way life is, and everyone understands that.
Okay. And so that park, I just did some quick math on it. I mean, obviously you got some water issues and you got some expenses flowing out the door. That's not going into your pocket, but looks like you guys, just based on those occupied pads, so 33 occupied pads that you have right now, and assuming, maybe a 40% or so expense ratio, that's still, you bought that thing at 14 cap. I mean, that's beautiful. I mean, you guys have raised rents since then, but I mean, you guys bought that at a really sweet price. I mean, definitely it was worth a lot more than that. So
yep. And even though we've been plowing money into it, Steve believes that we've got some cash-on-cash returns that are looking very attractive too, don't you, Steve?
Yeah, we haven't been pulling. I mean, it's cash flowing just fine, and I think the first 6 months, even though we put all that money back into it as CapEx, even with that, it was like a 15% return, and then the last month it actually raised it up significantly to like a 21.8% cash-on-cash return.
Because you're not putting as much money back into it now, or is that why that the cash?
Exactly.
Okay, good deal.
Yeah.
So that's another thing, so you guys have basically funded a lot of the renovations and the improvements. You funded it from the cash flow. And it's funny, I've talked about that in the past, and, it's everyone's personal right to do what they feel is best for them. But I sometimes I see people get burned out. They buy their first property and they've literally stretched their, everything that they have just to buy that property. It's a private needs capital improvements, and they plan on doing it out of cash flow, but the capital improvements are so significant that literally it could be like a year and a half before they ever start putting money in their own pocket, and that gets a little boring at a certain point in time, and it gets a little just demoralizing. Like, gosh, I'm spending all this time in this property, I'm not putting any money in my pocket. Especially if you have a wife and she's like, honey, you told me we're going to buy this property and we're gonna get rich. What's happening? All you're doing is spending time there. We're not putting any money in our bank account. what's going on? So, but it sounds like it's working out.
Or you've got the situation that me and Steve have, Kevin, where it's my wife that's really the operations manager of a mobile home parks, and she's doing awesome work with them. She dove in with both feet off the ground, and she loves it. And all the tenants love her because she's so straightforward with everybody, and she just runs the parks like you can't believe. You've seen a queen run England in the past, and that's what she does. Everyone loves her. Everyone listens and admires her and respects her more than everything. And so does Steve and I, don't we, Steve? She's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
She's done a lot for the parks.
I've been trying to get my wife into this business a little bit deeper, and she doesn't want anything to do with it at this point in time. Maybe I'll change her mind down the road. So, in fact, I don't even think she's seen half the parks.
I'm on the same page.
I don't even think she's seen half the. In fact, I don't know if she's been through any of the parks that we own together. I'm pretty sure that she's never been actually through. She's seen them, but never actually driven through any of the properties that we own, which is kind of ironic. But hey, it's she considers it to be my business.
We got lucky with the timing with Anna. She took over the parks because she just retired from being a school teacher recently. So she has more time on her hands. She was teaching a preschool and running a preschool for many years here at hometown area. And so running a park is a lot like a preschool, isn't it? In a lot of ways, I thought.
I've never heard that comparison, but it's pretty accurate, I guess. I want to ask you guys about the financing in this park. Did you get the owner to carry financing, or did you have to get bank financing on it?
We got bank financing. The note was through a local bank there. It was actually the bank that owned the park originally, so.
Okay.
The owner had financing through them, so they were ready and willing to finance us after we submitted all our financials to them, and we got it was a 20-year amortization, 10-year balloon with a adjusted rate after 5 years to the nearest T-bill. It's like 3.25% plus whatever the T-bill is going to be at the 5-year T-bill. But it started out at 4.75% interest for the first 5 years. So it's a pretty good note. I think the one thing we were a little bit hesitant was we wanted at least a 25-year AM, but 20-year AM is still not bad. And then these other two parks, we were able to finance those again through the same bank just because we already had a working relationship with them.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. I haven't seen too many 25-year AMs, especially on smaller deals like that with local banks. Most of the time it is a 20-year AM. We've got 2 deals in contract right now. They're a little bit larger in loan size. Both of them are over $1 million loan amount, and both of those we've got pretty attractive terms. They're just over $1 million, so they're still smaller banks that we're dealing with, but both of them they're going to qualify for 25-year amortization, and actually both of them a 10-year balloon as well, without a readjustment in the middle, which is pretty common as well with your local banks. Either they'll have a 5-year balloon in there, or they'll have a 5-year readjustment with a 10-year balloon in place. With that balloon or with the readjustment that you guys have, is there a cap or like a ceiling on the rate adjustment, like how much it can go up at that readjustment point in time? Do you know?
Whoa, Steve, I don't recollect the whether yes or no on that. Do you, Steve?
I don't think there's a cap on it. But they were suspecting that it would still be at around the same percentage that we're currently at when we sat down with the bank and went through some of the numbers on it.
Well, I hope there is, because last night I went to the economic club that the bank hosted. They invited Anna and I to that, and it was a very inspiring night, because the economic forecast that he went through last night was just awesome. And one of the big things that he said was, "Yep, you can expect rates to rise, interest rates to rise everywhere, and you can expect inflation, more inflation. We've been flat on inflation and hardly any inflation. These are all good things, Kevin. The horizon is looking much brighter in our economics forecast, especially here in Michigan."
Yeah. Well, good deal, guys. Well, let's talk about. I know we've only got a few minutes left here, but I want to learn about how this snowball effect has really played into your business overall, because we got that first deal, you got it out of the way, you got it done, you guys are still working through it. I mean, it's, there's never a point in time when you're done. Like, okay, well, we got everything we need to get done with this one property, now we're on to the next. It very rarely ever works like that. I mean, you get the big, the important priority items out of the way, but there's always something to do. There's always a home to renovate, there's always a home to sell, and then once you've done all those, now you got empty pads in there. You're going to start looking at bringing homes in properly, or trying to market to people to bring their homes in. So there's always something going on. There's always activity, but you got that momentum rolling, and that brought you to your second and your third deal. They were both in, I believe, they were in receivership when you bought them. Tell us about those a little bit, just the high level points regarding the size of them, what you paid for them, and then kind of what part of the process are you in right now with regards to the turnaround stage.
Yeah, we were able to get those because when we first bought that first park in Adrian, we went around to all the other parks in the area, the ones that we weren't able to get in contact with via phone, just to find out what the lot rent was, because a lot of the parks don't have a phone or don't even pick up the phone. So when we toured those two parks actually during that time, and found out what their lot rents were, and then in time, like one of those parks is like not even a mile away. You could walk to it from Southgate. So we had briefly considered, just because we had issues with the manager when we first bought our first park, Southgate, we considered using her as a manager. She seemed pretty locked on. So possibly using her to come over and manage our park, because we weren't sure if we had a quality tenant in our park to manage. Through multiple conversations with her, we found out that her park was being in receivership, and then we dug into it more through the taxes, looking at who owned it, calling the city, and we found out, hey, this local, like there was two names on there. The one guy out, the actual previous owner out in Washington State, and then the guy in receivership that had been actually paying the taxes, the local other local mobile home park owner. So we called him, and we're able to find out that hey, it is for sale, but someone's got a bid on it. So we ended up putting our own bid on there, and it just went from there down the line. So it worked out pretty well for us. But it's, I want to say, Sunset's 51 spaces. It's got a single family home, but it's only like 27 occupied and two tenant owned, or all tenant owned homes except for 2 homes. But we were able to sell those right away as well. So the lot rent there at Sunset is $305, and we were able to bump that up because that's the well and septic park. Mm-hmm. We already bumped that up to $330, and we're still, like I said, there's room to move from there, since we're basically the water and sewer company. So we feel we could have raised it even more than that. We're not going to lose anybody. Mm-hmm. But we stayed a little low, still give us more room to go up next year. So we're still at 330, or once we get the wells in, I think we might end up raising it up a little bit there. And then the Adrian Estates is 26 spaces, 18 homes in there, which were all owner occupied, and lot rent was $345 there.
Wow.
Which there's also room there. Room there is it's city water, city sewer, but we're the water company, right? We're paying for the water, so we're going to be bringing in meters right there, and save. We're estimating at least $10,000 right there once we bring in those meters, $10,000 a year. That park's excellent, just because it's like a lot of the homes in there are very nice homes. All there's plenty of space there. They're all concrete pads. They have concrete driveways. They have a concrete patio.
Wow.
The road is it's the only road that we have is it's a cul-de-sac basically. So it's on a city road, and then we have to maintain the cul-de-sac, which I think we're going to cold patch one of the potholes there, is what the township is complaining about. But that's really it for maintaining the roads there. It's a great park, and like I said, the homes in there are actually really nice. So I'm really excited about that park, actually, just because that single park, if we can fill that up potentially with using the Clayton Cash program, mm-hmm. and have some pretty good returns there.
Okay, exciting. What are you guys anticipating for your cost of meters between the meter itself and the install? What are you budgeting for that per home? About $300 or $350, something around there?
Yeah, about $300, mm-hmm. And I'm going to be a little bit more particular on who I hired to install those meters, because I found that in the first park we bought, the meters were installed by somebody who's more fly-by-night, and there was problems resulting from just the installation of them. So I'm going to pick out a local guy to do those. The meters cost somewhere a little under $200, and then you're looking at about $100 labor plus on the installation side of that stuff. You want it installed right. You see, in Michigan, everything freezes fast and freezes hard, and so you do want your side of the business, of the water business, to be protected from those freezes. Mm-hmm. So that requires tape, that requires insulation, and it's got to be done right. I've found that out too, or else it's just a nightmare when it does freeze up. Again, it's odd.
Are you guys putting just analog meters in, or are they going to be digital ones? The $200 sounds pretty high.
Yeah, they were digital ones, the ones that we had in mind, because we've got a nice company called Infinity that does all the meter reading for us and billing for us at the other park, and I really love their service, and it really doesn't cost us anything because they're collecting enough money to cover all of that and some too. Mm-hmm. So it works out really good. They do all the water they read the meters, they go out and do the shutoffs, and they go turn them back on again and collect the extra fee for shutting it off, the late charges and so forth. They're really good at all of that. And then well, the funny part about that, Kevin, is that it ends up looking like they're the water company, and we have nothing to do with it.
So you're
they
not
don't
the bad
look
guy.
at the. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
Yep.
I love that. Now
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you guys. So now that you've been doing this for a few years now, you got 3 parks. I want to ask you, and both of you guys can answer this individually, or just one of you can answer it either way. What would you say the biggest mistake is that you made along the way, and what would you do the next time around to avoid that same mistake?
I'd say it's in due diligence. On the first park that we bought, we weren't even allowed to do due diligence, some of the due diligence that we wanted to do, like visit the park. At one time, we had even what are these, he call it, a stay away order? Or
I remember you telling me that. Like a restraining order?
Cease and desist. Restraining order, yeah, from going to the park, because we had sent somebody over to take a look at the trees so we can get a bid on the trees. And the guy that went to the park to get a bid on the trees was out there counting trees and figuring out his bid. And the owner, or not the owner, but the manager walked up and said, "Who are you and what are you doing?" And he explained what he was doing for Mr. Warner. And she said, "Well, who's Mr. Warner?" And he said, "Well, he's the guy that's going to buy the park." And so the cat got out of the bag there. Yeah. And
shame on the other owner for not, being transparent about the whole process, I guess.
That's the way we look at it. So if we had started doing our due diligence on it, but then we wouldn't have gotten our first park too if we had done any due diligence on that, and then we would have been just shooed right out of that whole sale. You'd have sold it to somebody else somehow who would buy a park. We bought it basically, mostly on just numbers alone, on pro forma, which is the wrong way to buy a park, buying something on pro forma. Mm-hmm. Now that I own 3 parks, though, with Steve, we don't have to buy parks on pro forma. That's all there is to it,
Yeah, but there was enough of a buffer there based on what you paid for it and based on what you say we're paying tenants. I mean, there was plenty of buffer there of what you guys were paying for that based on the potential income or the expected income, I guess is the way to put it, expected income, because you guys really didn't know what was the truth or what was, false. And so... But it seems like there was plenty of buffer there to protect you guys, at least on the numbers I'm looking at, the numbers you just gave. Right? I mean, would you not agree with that? I mean, you had plenty of room there, wiggle room, it seems.
And that's why we moved forward.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I would do that again, though, Kevin, because there is a lot of risk. There's a lot of things that could be wrong with it that you don't know about. Once we start unearthing the water pipes, for instance, what if we found that these water pipes all need to be replaced as well? There's not a big enough buffer to do that,
right?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And luckily, I don't think that's going to be a problem, but.
It could be.
We lucked out.
You just never know. Right,
but it could
right.
be. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, good deal. So you guys would, next time around, you would do more. You would never buy a park without being able to do all the due diligence on it. So that was the big mistake. And, to avoid that, you would just make sure that you either were allowed to do all the due diligence that you needed, or you would just pass and move on to something else to avoid any of the risk associated with not actually being able to get in there and inspect things. So the last question I have for you guys is, you guys were new at one point, just a couple years ago, had never bought a park before. Now you own 3 of them and probably looking at many others as well, I'm sure, here in the near future. But what advice would you give to new investors who are looking to break into the park business? What would you say to them? If they said, "Hey, Dan, Steve, you guys own parks now. I like this business. I like what I see. I know there's some good opportunities here, but, what advice would you give me? Like either, maybe... stay away from this, stay away from that. You need to be looking for this or that. I mean, what general advice would you give this person?
Steve, you want to answer that?
Yeah. So go ahead, Dad.
I would say just pull the trigger. Go out and do it. That's the hardest step you can make, is buying your first park and pulling the trigger on it. Just have confidence in yourself. Once you do a little bit of due diligence on something and you get to know the product, you know it's gonna cash flow. It's gonna work, and just do it. Just pull the trigger. One of the mistakes we almost made, was buying a park where they had a constant tenant base change, and had we bought that, I think that would have been a bigger mistake. But we were ready to pull the trigger on that one too until we ran into some of those other issues. But you got to, when you see it right and you feel it's right, just pull the trigger and do it. That's my biggest advice.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's great advice. I mean, obviously, get the knowledge base down, and at least learn the theory aspect of it. But just you got to pull the trigger, and you just know that there's not enough books you can read, not enough boot camps you can take to where you're going to avoid every single possible mistake that you can make in a park. You just got to do it. And this applies to any kind of real estate. It doesn't matter if you're going to go buy apartment buildings or shopping centers or single family homes even. It doesn't really matter. You just need to do it. You need to get the first one done, and then just again, like we had mentioned, that snowball effect really kicks in, and you just got to get the first one out of the way. And Steve, I'm sorry I interrupted you. You were about to say something, so go ahead.
Oh, no worries, Kevin. It took us 6 months to close on that park, our first park, and we had multiple issues where we were like close to turning around, like the issue with the lot line and the hotel next door, and like the owner was actually paying like a land lease because some of the homes were over the lot line. So we found that out. We discovered all this on the survey, and then talking and trying to get that sorted out. It was just issue after issue to get that whole thing to close. But I mean, once we closed, it was a relief. And then, hey, we've got our first park, and everything else was easy from there. I mean, we just recently had another. We got a deal from the water guy in the area that helped install some of the meters, or helps work. I think he works with the MMHA, Michigan Manufactured Home Association, and offered us another deal. So, I mean, we got deal flow coming in, just not even really doing much.
That's
a great thing.
Yeah, you make a really good point there, because it's funny where your deals can come from. You got to think about it logically. Is the guy that reads your meters in that park, he services other parks as well, right? And so, I mean, who better to actually kind of give you guys some insight or some, just like insider knowledge on, what other parks might be for sale, or other parks that might be struggling. Like, hey, Dan and Steve, like, I know that this park, this guy, his wife just left him. He's doing a terrible job. The tenants hate him there. They always bitch about him when I go by. And you guys need to call this guy. Like things like that happen quite often.
Yep.
So.
Yeah,
but that's the snowball effect right there. That's it. It's because you got the first one. You got the first one done, and now momentum is building. And so, the thing you have to do is once you get the momentum building, you have to keep it going, right? Sometimes you got to nudge the snowball every once in a while. It does, sometimes it hits like a flat spot. You got to like push it or bump it a little bit to get it moving again. But as long as you just,
I've always explained it to my children as it's more like a freight train. It's so hard to get that freight train moving down the track. You're behind it, struggling, pushing, and you got it moved it an inch, now a couple inches. But once you get that guy humming at 45 miles an hour, it just takes a little bit of effort to keep it going at 45 miles an hour. But and you can let off the gas and let it slow down to 35, but don't let it slow down to a stop.
Yeah, shovel more coal into it.
There you go. Keep it going. Right.
Well, guys, this has been an absolute pleasure to speak with you about your story and your background, and I really appreciate you sharing it with our listeners. Like I had said, we met many years ago. Not many. I guess it depends on what many years ago means, but just a couple years ago before you had owned any parks, and you guys have come a long way, and you got a lot of good things happening for you. So I really appreciate you sharing the story. I just think it's inspirational to everyone. Even to me, it's awesome seeing that you guys literally took theory and turned it into action. And I think that's so important that you just get out there and take action and make things happen. So appreciate you both coming on the call today. Steve, I appreciate you waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning to get on this call. As we had mentioned, Steve's in Hawaii, and so it's a massive time difference from where Dan and I are located. And so I appreciate both of you guys getting on this call today. And Guys, that's all we have for today's for today's episode. Before we say goodbye, I want to remind you of the free gift that we're offering to listeners who take the time to leave a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. As you guys probably know already, Charles and I, we buy a lot of our deals off market. We buy them via cold calling owners, or we use direct mail. We use many different methods, but cold calling and direct mail are our two biggest. And we will give you, for leaving this review, we'll give you a free gift, and that will be the exact cold call script that we use in our very own mobile home park business. And here's what you need to do to redeem this gift from us. After you submit that review on iTunes, go ahead and just send us an email to gift@mobilehomeparkacademy.com and just tell us who you are and what screen name that you use to leave that review, and we'll go ahead and send you that free gift. And also be sure to stop by the Mobile Home Park Academy website at mobilehomeparkacademy.com. You can listen to all the previous podcast shows that we've done. You can also download a copy of our free popular book called The 21 Biggest Mistakes Investors Make When Purchasing Their First Mobile Home Park and How to Avoid Them. And Dan and Steve, did you guys download this book? Did you read it?
Absolutely.
I did, yeah.
Is it worthwhile? Tell is it for those that are getting into the business? I mean, we came up with as many big mistakes as possible, but do you think that it's very relevant for those that are getting into this business to read that book?
It absolutely tops my list, Kevin. There are items that you need to do, and that's a must. That absolutely is a must. Everything that you do. The Academy is also a great idea, but a little known secret, Kevin, is that just listening to your podcasts and the other ones that are out there for the course of a year, you'll gain pretty much all the knowledge that you might run into in the Academy, and you'll be an expert when you go there. So you'll be well prepared, and you won't have to do all your homework while you're at the Academy. You'll just be able to enjoy your time.
That's great advice. That's great advice. Well, Steve and Dan both, really appreciate you having on the show. You guys have a wonderful week, and I wish you all the best success in the world as you move forward in your mobile home park journey. And I look forward to we're going to catch up again sometime soon on a future show. Once you have like 500 pads under your ownership. I know that's coming very soon because you guys got the freight train rolling. So you guys take care and have an awesome week, okay?
Thanks so much, Kevin.
Congratulations for taking the necessary steps to achieving massive success through the highly lucrative niche of mobile home park investing. Be sure to visit our website, mobilehomeparkacademy.com, to download your free digital ebook version of the 21 biggest mistakes investors make when buying their first mobile home park and how you can avoid them. And while you're there, be sure to subscribe to our free monthly mobile home park investing newsletter, which is jammed full of valuable tips, tricks, and strategies to help you accelerate your path to success as a mobile home park investor. More information about this podcast and its hosts can be found by visiting mobilehomeparkacademy.com.